6.
That's pretty cool. I like it. Do you know if those folks, I mean the tech system folks, are bringing beverages, caffeinated or otherwise? Hmm.
I think they're bringing something.
I'm just curious.
Yesterday they said it probably is, but I haven't heard it today. They're gonna stop doing it every week or every month. They're gonna do it and support it.
They're going to stop doing it?
Yeah, so it's a good while last. You gotta spread the word.
Sure. I know. I understand.
With all the other tech firms.
Right. Hmm.
So, good force.
Can I get these? Our legion of thousands of people that are watching will sure pay attention to details like that, so that's good. So for now, what's that? Dude, that sucks. Hmm. An anti
Well, it's not- Oracle and Oracle database and Sun's system, Solaris, and you name it. So among the things that they defined as trading, we said they said we can show you how to use it. We said you should do that.
Yeah. So what made y'all decide to go with Oracle Linux versus RHEL?
What choose them?
Really? That's shocking. Because historically, in my experience, Oracle has always been just absurdly expensive for no apparent reason. Just
Well, the reason it's so much cheaper, you know anything about Oracle?
I know it's pretty much the same thing as just CentOS with the binaries and everything changed to Oracle. Much like
That's exactly it. So how much R&D do they put in it?
very
Do you
little.
have a problem with the package?
Sure they do. Wow.
So it's really you know they replace the Red Hat with
Sure.
Oracle Red Hat.
Change Etsy Red Hat release to something else.
Yeah,
You know.
they do add unbreakable kernel.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is I think they're 4.0
But
kernel, which Red Hat RHEL 6 is still 2.6.
true, but you can do case flight. When you say unbreakable, you mean can reboot. You can update it without rebooting, right?
No, they also have case flight.
Right.
Separate.
Okay.
And then unbreakable kernel is their modification to the source.
Which I'm sure would only be good modifications. They would never do anything bad.
It's just amazing how you do certain flags like
See,
security flags,
yeah,
which we are required to do.
yeah. But do you guys use SE Linux?
We don't. I would like to learn how to use it. Because I don't know how to use it. I mean, everywhere I've ever worked, the same thing.
Yeah, hell yeah. Exclusively.
Show us.
I could. Put a link in the IRC room. Presuming my Wi-Fi actually works and it really did send that, I don't know. But
This is State Carolina Linux User Group. Well, you can see how we meet once a month, the second Tuesday of the month, 6:30. We go until sometime 8, 9, who knows. So tonight we've got Yancey's Swan meet. Did anyone else bring the stuff to Swan? That was kind of a short notice sort of thing, so if not, I apologize for that. I'm going to be giving a presentation tonight on Docker. I'm going to call it. Docker, as I understand it, or what little I know of Docker, because if you're like me, sometimes you just need to be a little bit exposed to something to know what it's like. And Docker is like this big hot issue that everyone's really into now. All the conferences, it's how you get Docker to work with a product or a project, or Docker this and Docker that. You know, last year it was cloud, this year it's Docker. Next year, who knows? Oh, goodness. So I guess don't have anything really planned. I'm just gonna kind of show stuff as I know it. If you have experience with Docker, please help me out. I'm going to rely on Kirk some. I know because he's done some Docker stuff. Is anyone else done anything with Docker? Anything perfect Docker? Who here is not? Let me ask you one more. Who here is not for Docker? Okay. Well, we do that one too. So I guess I should explain what it is first, or should I just go ahead and go into that? Which would you prefer? Explain it? Okay, so, can you help me here for this? Should I close this? I like to talk so loud. So, Docker is let's see, how should I explain it? You know how you have virtual machines, right? There's virtual machines, and you create a virtual machine to do a task, and then you create another virtual machine to do a task, and this one does this. This is your web server, this is your application server, this is your load balancer, this is your mail, this one does your routing, this one does. So you divide all your tasks into virtual machines. So for that, you need to have a hypervisor that does all the virtual machines. You get VMware, you can get Zen, KVM, Hyper-V, use other technologies that are out there. Right? So there's all this stuff that you do. Zen and KVM are in Linux kernel. Never Zen is. I think so.
Yeah.
Pretty sure Zen is part of the Linux kernel, but KVM is definitely part of it. Within the last couple of years, there's been the idea of containers. And they kind of sprung from BSD's jails and
Zones.
Zones, yes. Select zones, BSD jails. I think for sure there's other Unixes that have some technology. Basically, what it is, it's instead of having this one machine, so you buy a big EQ machine, you want to get your virtual machine stuff on, right? So you have 2,000 tons of RAM and disk and CPU, 5,000 CPUs and whatever. So for each virtual machine, it has 2 CPUs, 4 gigs of RAM, and a little bit of disk, so that you share load across these massive machines. So you still need to buy that big massive machine, but instead of having that hypervisor like Zen, KVM, VMware, Hyper-V, you have the Linux kernel running, and you have containers. Each container, or jail, or zone in Solaris and BSD, is actually running, instead of through a hypervisor, it's running directly in the Linux operating system. If that makes sense. So whereas if you've got your application stack like this, right? You've got your web servers up here, or your router, or your application server, whatever. It's running up there. In order to get to the hardware, it has to go through all these other things. There's always going to be an operating system. So that it talks to disk and RAM and to the CPU. When you have a virtual machine, you have a hypervisor that pretends that it's a machine. It presents everything as though it were a machine. And that talks directly to the physical hardware. The physical operating system and the physical hardware. Is all this making sense? So with the hypervisor technology, you've got a physical box that has some sort of hypervisor operating system. And then on top of that operating system, it presents a virtual machine, a fake machine, that has RAM and CPU and disk. And then it presents it, so you have to put on top of that, you can install operating system. And then your application, like a website. With Docker, you instead get rid of this whole layer of a hypervisor, and you run this directly in the operating system. So you can have, but it's presented as though it's a virtual machine, so you can't see all the other containers inside it. It thinks that it's its own machine in its own little world. It's a virtual machine. And to connect to another virtual machine, it has to go through a regular network. Right. That makes sense? So, why are we going to do this? What are we doing that we're going to do for business? Understand, it's all about give and take. You would have tax people operating system. Yes, because you have one operating system that's running back.
Each container thinks it owns all the hardware. It thinks it owns.
It thinks that it owns all the hardware that is presented to it.
Each virtual machine.
What's that?
You have about virtual machines or containers? Each virtual machine thinks that owns all the hardware.
Well, it's actually kind of both. The Docker, when it has containers, it segments what is real on the physical machine into what it gives this particular container. So you tell Docker, for example, I'm going to create a new container. Tell the container that I've only got 2 gigs of RAM, and I've only got 60 gigs of hardware. 2 CPUs. So it thinks I'm a brand new complete machine with 2 CPUs and 4 gigs of RAM and that sort of thing. But it does have direct access to all of this devices. Direct access because they're going straight to the cloud, which does that. That makes sense? Is that what you were trying to say with that? Yeah. Another thing is it's speedier. It's going to be faster because you don't have to go through all these layers. This has to think like this, and get it passed on this layer, and this has to pass on this layer. When you direct it onto the operating system, because it has a shorter path, right, to get to all those items. So a couple of years ago, Linux provided what's called Seekers, containers, I think what Seekers is stood for, is that right? And then it's kind of Seekers problem. Seekers kind of sections off and tells whatever process, you only have this much whatever, whether that be RAM, CPU, disk, and there's tons of other things. So with the Seekers idea, this is your container. You can put on that later on. So you don't have a hypervisor. That's really the benefit of this because you're talking about the department. So this
There's something that installs on the operating system to actually may install containers or just go into the
yes, so the container has to have
Because the container thinks that it is a self-contained machine, you have to put an operating system on. So there is still an operating system that you have. So I think I may have misspoke earlier. You are still only using the same kernel for all containers. There's only one kernel. So it's the Docker kernel, which is accessed directly by each container. Only one kernel. You patch the kernel on the Docker server, it gets patched on all.
Sir, okay, so are you able to extract anything, any other operating systems in these containers, or is it just, okay, so if you are able to, for example, run a Windows container inside Docker?
No.
No.
Okay, that's an excellent point. That is one of the downfalls of Docker, is that because you're talking directly to the kernel,
Yeah. It's Kevin.
So, you can't run Windows in the Docker container, because you would need to have a virtual machine. It's not virtual machine, it's a container. Yes, sir.
It's a container, right? Programming, not operating.
No. Because you have multiple operating systems in different, each container can have different operating.
Well, this sounds very similar, for anybody that's familiar with last series, AS100, very similar to what happened in LPAR.
Yes. Yeah. As I understand it,
Right.
having not been in that environment,
That's the
it's my understanding that that is kind of very similar.
I've been confused with this. I was thinking that Docker could be a replacement for a virtual machine, so that I do just that.
In some use cases it is.
However, in doing some really, a lot of people are saying that you can install a virtual machine in a container. I don't know why you're going to do that.
You can, but you can. See how that brings up another very weird thing. One of the, probably several of them, but some of the virtual cloud computing providers, the one I'm thinking of is DigitalOcean. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but they're competing with Amazon Web Services. And DigitalOcean is gung-ho at the top. But you know, they're running KVM. So underneath it's KVM that you're presenting a virtual machine that you can run Docker in and run containers inside your Docker KVM that's running under it. So you've got multiple layers still, but you can have Docker. And you just buy one virtual machine that has multiple containers. It's kind of a strange thing, but you can. And you can also do containers inside containers. Docker inside of Docker. It's kind of this,
Inception.
just because you can. So in some use cases, containers do replace virtual, but not in all use cases. Some people use Docker and containers as a single-purpose micro machine sort of idea. So you have one container that only does web services, but to pull the content up, the database is its own one container, simple, bare bones container. So microservices is kind of this whole microservice movement really loves Docker because you have microservice, individual, thin as possible containers. Whereas with KVM, you have to put an entire operating system and have everything. In a container, you can also do that. So a container really is running one process, whereas a virtual machine is an entire operating system and has bunches of processes. But that one process can also be init, which is the one that runs all the time. So anytime you spawn a shell or spawn a web server in your on your laptop. It's a NIT that actually spawns it. So you could have that one process be NIT. All right, I think we're probably going to the mind stuff real too far. Concept. Any questions? Oh, you had a question.
Yeah, I was making a question, you know, sandbox.
Yes, yes, and that's it's same
There's also if there's a house, which has a phone, you have sandbox, and then there, it's a two or three.
yeah, and that's the whole point of it is to sandbox off everything so that you can. So I'm gonna mess with it. And here again, I don't have a script or anything. I don't have a plan. I'm just gonna go along and see if I can get this right. So everything that you do is from a command called, strangely enough, Docker.
There's a lot of R&D put into that name.
Yeah, they spend a lot of money. Docker is your command that does all this stuff right here. So you give a Docker, and then you say run, and I'm going to look for an interactive terminal, and I want to create. Let me start off by saying. Well, I'm running Ubuntu 15.04. So I'm going to have a container called Docker run with an interactive teletype terminal of Ubuntu. And there it is. Did you notice how fast that came up? It's just another process. Now, if you'll notice here, my prompt changed. This right here. 57B, 54B, DEF, 66 is my host name. And I'm getting a prompt. If I look, I'm on slash, and these are my directories. It looks like a normal Ubuntu thing. If I look at issue, this one is 14.04. So I'm running a different version of Ubuntu. I didn't know if I would or not. So this is the long-term support version of Ubuntu. My laptop is running the 15.04 version. Because it's, that's how I roll. Right? But I want my container to be a little more stable than that. All right, so if you notice I exited and I'm back at my stack is the name of my computer, my laptop. So when you see it back at this prompt, color is in stack. Can y'all read that okay? I should ask that first part. Can anyone read that in the back?
Not very well, but.
Let me run it again. And I want you to notice something. This changed right here. Why did that happen? It's because it's a different host name. That's my host name, 0E00EA9D0ECF. I created a completely new container when I ran this. So I'm going to exit that. Do a Docker. There's a PS. Nothing's running this. So I'm going to show a PS all. And so 0E00EA9D08CF was the last one that ran 37 seconds ago. And it was called suspicious Fermi. And then the one I did earlier here is right there. It called itself Stoic on the D. Gives it a random name.
You need to rename or give them a name?
You can, yes. That is an exercise for the viewer. But yes, so I can resume. we start start on the video. Okay, now that ran in the background. I think. Yeah, so it's running right now in the background. It's running the bash shell. Now normally, again, these are going to be simple examples. You're not going to be running bash every time. You're going to be running like one container that's running your database, one that's running your web server, one that's running your whatever. But for our purposes tonight, so if I want to attach to stuck on media, there I am. I'm back at it. I haven't done anything to it. So. If I look at my history, you see where I did earlier. I looked at the issues just to see what version of the job running. Cool. So, are there any questions so far? Because this is a little hard to, sometimes it gets your head wrapped around it. It's kind of strange because every time you run the Docker command to run, if you don't tell it a previous one that's already running or something like that, it's going to create a brand new container every time. But you can reattach to previously running ones or ones that are running in background. One thing you might want to have is secure shell even running. And you can just SSH to it, like you put a VM or another machine physically somewhere else in the other side of the country. One of the great things about Docker and why people are loving it and why they're using it is because you can create a self-contained Docker image that is exactly the same no matter where you put it. So if I'm running it on here on my laptop, and I'm developing for it, and I set it in stone, I save it off somewhere, how to build it. Whenever I go to a big, beefy machine, on the other side of the country, I'm a provider, DigitalOcean or something like that, and I say, pull down this image that I've stashed somewhere, it's going to be the exact same over there. Let's have 5 of them, the exact same thing. I have to change configurations so that they can talk to each other. But they are the exact same. They will run exactly the same way. So that's one of the selling points of Docker is that it's all the containers, no matter what kind of hardware, big, small, medium sized, they're all the exact same. So
Even the kernel?
well, the kernel's going to be different, but the application will be the same. So on my Ubuntu 15, it's going to be running the different kernel, but all the layers, my libraries are going to be the same. I won't have to rely on PHP 4 or on PHP 5 or another, and not have to say, do I need to install in parallel, or do I need to uninstall and backward, and all this other stuff. That's why a lot of developers want it. So if they're writing their application for one version of something, they're not going to know if when you give them a virtual machine, if they have to say, well, also install this version of this library, this version of that. They can go to a container and say, this is what it is. And the system administrator just says, okay, this is just a process.
What if you're compiling your application and you're not using like a package manager or something like that?
Yes. Was that a question? Or
It was a question.
Yeah.
But if you want to take it as a statement, that's fine.
Yes. It's, okay. So yeah. So if you're compiling it, you put it in this bundle, the container. You don't have to worry as a developer if it's going to be anything that's relying underneath. The operating system is going to be different underneath because you've got the container. So let me just run one more thing here. What if I wanted to Gentoo? So,
Jeremy will be providing editorial comment right now, I'm sure, if you were here.
Say again?
Jeremy will be providing editorial comment right now, if you were here.
Hang on, y'all. I apologize. There's one thing that I have to do. So. Let's say I want to run. I'm going to try busy box. So, if I look at this, I've got a new thing that called busy box. And it's not Ubuntu. You notice that. Tell you what, what's a distribution that someone in here? SUSE. SUSE. Okay, so none of this. It may just be that the name is not there. The name SUSE is not there. So what's going on now, just so you know, is that's different than the last time I ran Ubuntu. Because I had the Ubuntu image locally, the image to create a container locally. What it's doing right now is it's going out on the internet to Docker Hub, which is a repository, you might think of it, a repository of containers that have a bunch of names. Let me actually, so here, yeah, okay. So this is Docker Hub, and I'll go to the main page. Docker Hub is a repository of containers. So I want to look for one.
Jason, how do you have that page out?
Oh, wow.
That's not bad. That's good.
See, I just knew. So, CentOS, BusyBox, Ubuntu, Scratch, Fedora. These are just a few of, I think these are probably the most popular ones on the Docker Hub. So Docker Hub is well, I think I've said this 3 times now. It's a repository for images.
Repetition 8's running.
You can go to it and choose one that you like, your operating system of choice, for example, or a particular server that you're looking for, like, what is it? Apache, distributed proxy designed to route pipelines of HTTP website. Okay, so that's a service. So this is a container. This Apache looks like it's a mashup of Apache and Pi something that proxies Apache. It's what it looks like. I mean, I'm not reading very carefully because I'm in front of everybody else talking to. But this is an example of a container that's got a single process, and that single process is this thing called Apache. So when you do a Docker run on Apache will be running. And that's the only thing that runs inside that container. Not sure if that really tells you any questions.
I think you can go wrong.
Yeah. So oh yeah, absolutely. Let me do something. Yeah. Here's, yeah, there we go. And there's several different versions. Ben Hutchins has created his own media.
He doesn't have any stars though.
The Simply Intricate company has
Very few polls.
yeah. But you know, now that I've signed in as me, truck, that's me, truck, because I named my truck. Say that 5 times. If I were to create a new container and upload it for all to share, it would be called truck/MediaWiki. And so you go in here, you see how what they've done to it. This is the documentation. If you want to run this MediaWiki, you do this command over here: docker run name same MediaWiki blah blah blah. And what the heck? What's it? Yes.
What is the seed tree? Okay.
Sir.
What is the seed tree?
Sir?
Seed tree.
Seed tree?
Yeah, the last part of the command, seed tree /MediaWiki.
That command?
On that website.
Oh, it looks like sync tree is whoever's logged in as sync tree. My guess would be that they are either a person or a company that provides MediaWiki. If it were mine, it'd be truck/MediaWiki. That's the last time. So if I run this, what you'll notice is it's pulling down. What it does is it goes to Docker Hub and pulls down the layers. Okay, so I haven't talked about layers. Docker has the concept of layering. And here again, as I understand, so please correct. Docker has layers. So the file system, it puts the file system down, and let's say you have a Ubuntu or CentOS, and CentOS will be that layer. Then you set it in stone. That's a layer for CentOS. For all time's sake. You want to layer, you want to put MediaWiki in this case. Okay, so there's more layers than I thought. There's, let's say, for example, and I don't know what they did here. Each of these strange hashes, what they are, is a layer. So let's say that one layer is the operating system, or just the bare bones of the operating system, right? Just enough to have package management. The second layer is going to be, say, Apache. The next layer up will be, I don't know, PHP. And then another layer is going to be the actual MediaWiki. So each of these layers are actually read-only. So the CentOS can from the container's point of view, can't change the operating system. It also can't change the Apache. It can't change the PHP or whatever, but it can alter the top layer. The top layer is always read-write. Everything underneath is read-only. If you change anything, let's say you're going to want to change your settings, your exit directory, your configuration, that is laid on top of it from a file system point of view. So you haven't altered the read-only layer, you just changed it, and the view of it in the upper layer is there's a new file that's called etsy/mediawiki.com or something like that. The etsy/mediawiki.com in the lower layer is still the same as it was, but it's been masked over by the one on top. Does that make any sense? So it's kind of, no. How do we do these? Let's say, let's assume that these chairs stack. They're stacking chairs, right? Okay. So we've got a stack of chairs, layers of chairs. But I wrote on this one the configuration for Apache and blah, blah, blah. But whenever I run this, I change it and say the configuration for Apache is blah, blah, blah. When I sit down on the chair, which one am I going to see? The one below? No, I'm going to see the one on top. That's a terrible analogy, but I think you understand what I'm saying. Okay, so when you put on your clothes, no one's looking at what I put on my underwear, right? No one's, when I put my jacket on, you can't see what's on my shirt. That's kind of. Also a terrible example. But I think you understand what I'm saying, right?
So, I mean, the takeaway is that really is what's making it fast for you. Because whenever you change anything, it just copies it, you write, copy on write. So that's like, if you make one that updates the configuration, then make a new container, instead of having to copy over the 800 megabytes or whatever, it only has to copy over the 5K or whatever that you altered. So that's, and the rest of it can be shared between your different containers.
That's the thing, is containers can share layers, read-only layers. Right? So if my wiki is running CentOS, and my database, my MySQL database is running CentOS, it's the same CentOS, they can share that layer. So you've got less resources. Sorry.
So the layers are not inside a container.
Right.
They're
The top layer has the container.
top layer is the container, the other layer is the between objects, the real operating system.
It's really just
File system.
It's really just file system.
Just like Cheroot 2.0 or something.
Exactly. That's the way I think of it personally. It's, in my mind, it's truth.
It's basically Cheroot with Cgroup
With Cgroup.
plus Union file system.
Yes. Yes.
What's that?
The file system part.
Union file system.
So that's
Union file system is the layer.
but Cgroup,
Cgroup,
which is the isolation in the kernel, and then the file system is the other part. So it's basically the idea.
This is in the kernel now?
Yes.
Well, I mean, Docker program is external, but it uses what's already in there. It utilizes C groups, which is in every operating system now. It utilizes, well, the Union file system may or may not be, depending on the.
I think I think that basically that last year, I think it made it in. I'm not 100% sure.
They were using AUFS.
Right.
And I think they were going to Flutter.
I don't know if they have. Honestly, don't.
I don't know if they got it or not.
Yeah.
But those are just, they're just file systems, right? That can layer on each other. I don't know why they haven't done with Union FS. Wow, that's a lot of layers.
Yeah, that's
It looks like I mentioned, since it said it could find some MySQL, 1 or 2 or 5 of those are MySQL layer. I'm going to just rerun it and see. Oh. The name's some, okay, so there's a container already running that has that name.
Pretty cool.
So
Can you name layers?
that's getting a little further than I know. I don't know. They already have a name. There's a name layer.
Is there some kind of management tool for Docker?
Docker is the management tool.
It's available as a Docker image. You can downchain.
Yeah, that's it. That's your user interface, but it's not bad.
Yeah, it's yeah. And part of it, that's part of the reason I haven't gotten into it, because I just don't have the time to spend to learn all this stuff. And again, full disclosure, I don't know everything about this. I've been exposed to it. So this is, I'm exposing myself. I'm exposing.
Hey, hey, come on.
Keep your layers on.
Yeah, keep your layers on. Right.
I'm just exposing. I'm just showing what I know. This isn't a full tutorial. Okay. Let's see, so what was that one? Okay, so some media was the one last created 3 minutes ago. And that was the one I created with this command. So double dash name is what I gave. So I can reattach to that. Right? What was it? Restart. Some media. That's running in the background. Docker. Attach. Some can't attach to a stock container. Start first. You big dummy. How about I do it as a daemon? I apologize, y'all. I don't know everything about it. I'm just showing it to you so y'all can teach me later where I messed up. So yeah.
How do you go about installing an application inside this application?
Well, oh, thank you. Thank you for the segue. There is a its own specifications.
No,
Just repeating myself.
no, I just think, right.
Where did they come up with
The lack of ingenuity with the name is really great. It's
Well,
awesome.
I think,
Less stuff to remember. It's
That's
already
true.
hard enough.
That's true.
I think part of it is kind of, something, I think we like make file, use make to make a file.
Makes sense.
What does make do? It makes stuff. And how do you make? Well, you use make on a make file. So Docker, you make a container, you make a Docker container with a Docker file. I'm still learning the Docker file format, but I was going to create my own little wiki. Here's where I've gotten to. So all of them have to have a from, and I think it's the directives are in all cases from, and that is the container that you're basing. That's the lower layer. That's what you're basing it on. So my first attempt was to base it on the BusyBox, the latest BusyBox. You know what BusyBox is? Should I explain that? How do you know? BusyBox is a
Just VMware.
it's a do everything little program. It was invented for, it's used a lot in embedded systems, especially, or VMware.
Synology NASs, NAS devices, stuff like that.
NAS
Synology.
devices, yes,
Swiss Army
routers and stuff.
Yeah.
So BusyBox is one binary that does a lot of stuff. It has LS, PS, all your Linux tools, all your file system tools, all your filters, all your cut, paste, and grep, and it's got shells, it's got package managers, everything in this one binary. So this is huge source code, and you can choose which things you know your router or your whatever, or your embedded device is going to need at any time. And you say, I'm not going to use grep ever, I'm not going to use LS, but I am going to use the ash shell, I'm going to use the dash shell, or I'm going to use cut, but never I'm going to use awk, that sort of thing. And it makes it to very customizable one program that does all this stuff. And it also you can use UCLUG, which is a microcontroller library, is what it stands for, or minilib. These are all C libraries. Going off topic, but so BusyBox is one little thing. I love
Swiss
it.
Army knife.
It's a Swiss Army knife. It was okay. So the history of BusyBox was started by the Dead End project for their floppy installer. They wanted to have everything that a regular full CD installer would have on floppy. So they just trimmed down. We're never going to use this flag and that flag and that. You know, why would you need a double dash name? You know, so that's BusyBox. Of course, you see, I went next to Debian. Debian doesn't have MediaWiki, so I went to the Voodoo. So the from is required. I think there's only one. from cloud. Maintainers just, maintainer, I think it's also required, I'm not sure. Then you've got these runs. I found out today that run is each layer. So run is a command. Run is a command that you run to build a container. So you saw, I think, my first layer has an update, which, if you're not familiar with Debian-ish operating systems, apt is the package manager. So it does an update, it goes out to the internet to find out what list of packages are available. Then it does apt install SQLite and MediaWiki. Just install those two packages. I haven't gotten very far with this.
Yes.
Yes. Because after last year, here's what you're going to install, you want to install. And when you're running this, you're not given a prompt, so it's going to stop after asking yes or no, which you can't say yes to. So give it a dash file. What was your next question?
This year.
So if I want to reduce the number of layers, I could probably put both of those in script. It's called script. But there's other. Then when I go further along with this, I want to use the CMD command directive and say user bin MediaWiki or something like that. User bin Apache. I'm not really sure. So run and command are two different things. They both are what you want, a command that you want to execute. But the run is to build the container. The command is to run when the container is instantiated. When I say instantiated, we Docker run. Questions with that?
Because I think those run commands actually cache when you build it again.
Yeah.
Since it's a layer.
Yes, this is a layer. So that's how you would make a new container. And then once you build a container, then you can upload it to Docker Hub. Or there's a way that I don't know how to do that you can create your own hub repository of containers. See what else we got. So let me rerun this previous account. So 5:59. Good to see you. Come back.
I'll be back next.
Good.
Stuff.
Good to see you.
Yeah, really cut.
Let's see this here. So build root is box. What was the other one? G2. Why G2 wasn't working earlier? Let's do this.
It's still compiling.
What?
It's still compiling.
Still compiling? Doesn't make sense. And so you're also going to want to have each container has its own different IP address, so that you can. They're all going to be their own network device. There are ways to have containers only talk to containers reports. You say that this port is only allowed to this container on this port, or vice versa, or this one can only talk to this. This can only talk to this. And then you can say this is exposed to the outside world. This port is exposed to the outside world. I don't know how to do that. I just know that it's available. But yeah.
Is the address IPv4 or 6?
I've only seen 4 so far. But let's find out. Segmentation fault. So, what about
Yeah, I know, 6.
That's 4 and 6.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's got button. Let's see if I can maybe show them where. Okay. So I'm on my just I was going to ship an SDB, so SDB running all in the booth. Yeah, I was running BusyBox earlier. Just, I guess that's about it that I can go any further. Because the rest of it I don't really much more than this. Are there any questions that I can't answer? Or anything y'all want me to try? I mean, while we're here, we can learn this together too. Oh, let's see.
Security,
Oh, I thought of something. Hold on. Docker search SUSE. Oh, OpenSUSE. How about I try that? So let's try OpenSUSE. Cool.
there's some security best practices. I read some stuff around, Docker having some law where you can gain root access or VM.
So yeah, there are Docker security best practices.
Basically, don't run stuff.
Thanks.
Don't run stuff.
Oh, they are.
Well,
There are best practices, yes.
don't run stuff as root, okay? Because one of the primary limitations that we have right now with the C groups is that
You're saying C as in just C and
yeah, it's like capabilities groups, I think.
C groups.
That's what it stands for.
Um,
That's basically the part of the kernel that Docker is using to get the isolation.
Groups.c.
This is C
so
groups.
if you look here,
Yeah.
on any modern distribution, you're going to have all of these C groups.
So basically what those C groups are allowing Docker to do is to set up separate namespaces for the separate containers. So that's how you're getting containerization. That works well for the network stack. It works well for process IDs. One thing that does not work for right now is the user namespace. Okay, so user ID 0 on your container is going to be the same as root on your host system. So that's why you don't want to run
If you're running the container from root.
correct.
You just don't run the container from root. and you-
Right, so a separate user. But so that's basically the primary limitation. They've been saying that that's going to get fixed, but
It is this.
is it?
Yeah, so in fact, I had to set mine up on my laptop to, it's basically a user mapping. So
Okay.
user 0 inside the container is actually user
yeah.
4. So
So yeah, that's
is
probably the
user
past.
1000.
Yeah, that's probably the past like month or two that I think they've probably done that. So a lot of this is slightly bleeding edge, but personally, though, I wouldn't, run stuff that you didn't trust because since you're sharing the same kernel, if somebody gets a kernel level exploit and is actively trying to hurt you, then that's going to escalate them directly on the host system. You don't have that extra layer of hypervisor from the virtual machine. So if you have code or people that you don't trust, virtual machines might still be a good option.
Like the third person on the electrical line, and you buy electricity from your neighbor, he gets burned out, you're gonna get burned out, that's the reason why we need to circulate.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure I know how to phrase this question, but is the container limited to the command line? What happens if you were to close it back? Yeah.
Oh, see, this is actually just on my machine.
But he's asking
I can run the container as a daemon running it back. And it just, I can reattach to it from wherever, or SSH to it if I go to SSH daemon running. So usually, is it by default SSH daemon, or is it you have to give it a -d, I think, to run it in the backend setup for daemon. And that's usually the way you're going to want it. For demonstration purposes, I was doing batch every time. But you know, I'm not going to run patch starting it this way. So usually it's stuff that's running in the background. You either SSH into it or you attach. Well, you're not even really ever going to do that because it's going to be running just attached to your one process. If it's messed up, just create a new container. You fix it in your Docker file. It's all a new container. Or if it's messed up, your configuration messed up. Let's reverse. No, don't reverse. Just create a new container. Let's go to this one. There are a lot of downfalls to it. So, and I've also heard, and maybe this is internet rumor, that Microsoft is thinking of using Docker for Windows, so that you have a Windows container. That's going to be a whole lot of.
I've heard rumors that Microsoft's going to use Linux. So.
Well, I have some coworkers who came back from there was a big thing, big convention. They came back with stickers that said Microsoft Heart Linux. And it was a sticker, and I was like, hey, I was going to put it on my laptop, but I thought, I would feel dead inside. I would feel dirty. And he brought back one of, have you seen the squeezy tux penguins things? It had Microsoft loves open source on it. It's crazy. They are apparently now big in open source. I think it's probably they're going to have their own open source.
And they have done, you know, some cool stuff. I mean, they have that Haskell compiler.
Really?
Yeah, the Glasgow Haskell compiler, which is
I haven't heard of that.
open source, but it's part of Microsoft Research. So, I mean, they do work on stuff and release it. But
Well, I think now that Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer are gone, all the original founders, probably, we're going to see in this market. Because you go to Microsoft.com/open source, 10% of the Azure cloud is running Linux. It might be more than 10%. No, at least 10%.
They look for their money on the office. Sweetie and that thing.
Yeah.
Financial outrageous.
Right. Yeah.
Microsoft's done recently that's really interesting, bringing the really stripped down version with the 10 Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
It was really unique.
Have you used
I haven't messed with it, but it looks like a really, really stripped down version. It doesn't even have a standard like Windows look to it. It's completely, it almost looks, yeah, it looks nothing like Windows.
You think it's more like Windows Phone?
Almost. I'd say it's more like Windows CE or more like the compressed.
That makes
version
sense.
of Windows. Yeah.
Then we know it's for the laptop, desktop version, or CPU.
Yeah, it looks really compressed.
Yeah.
Compatible.
All right, I guess that's all I got. Unless y'all have any more questions.
I just think, like, one of the things to take away is that this really ties into last month's talk. Because really the whole idea why people created Docker is to get into this whole microservice mindset. So you're basically each container you want it to do one thing well. Each container is going to be a microservice. And then you're going to hook them up together using your virtual network that does so well. So that's kind of the mindset. It's not just like what it does, but it's like it works into that microservice idea that we learned last month and gives you tools to make it a little easier.
So we'll continue the paradigm shift, get off.
Well, it's, there is a trade-off. It's not as secure as a virtual machine, but that is just like, the idea is that, they're cheap, they're replaceable, you can destroy them, create new ones,
Fast,
but,
identical.
each one's just doing one thing. So that if your database goes berserk, it's not going to take down your web server container. And these containers are easy to transfer between different providers. So you can be running them on Amazon, and if you hate Amazon, you can take it to Microsoft, because everybody's getting behind supporting these formats. I think Docker has been forked recently. The CoreOS people this summer came out with a alternative specification called Rocket. So right now, I don't really know what the difference is. It seems like bike shedding, but there actually is has been a little bit of corporate support behind the Rocket folks. If nothing else, maybe some of the sort of hardware providers don't want to get too tied to Docker Incorporated. So maybe just something to be aware of is that, there's other ways to do containers. Docker was the first, but it's not the only game
Well,
in town
no,
now.
LXC was first, I would say.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
LXC is the Linux containers, and it's in the kernel. But it's got a lot of the similar ideas. In fact, originally Docker was based upon LXC, the LXC containers. So the container technology, I think they're now using the lib container. They said that's not good enough, we're going to do our own thing instead of LXC. So LXC is another container technology that I think pioneered all the secret usage. And, I think Docker came in with the union file system idea, layers, but LXC you could have a fully virtual machine container. I'm actually myself looking more into LXC for a full container than the Docker.
I think you're right. I think LXC is still being developed too. So
It's
at least
a little more difficult than Docker is. People believe that.
this is still pretty fresh, and people are still kind of figuring out the best way to do it, honestly. So, it's coming together, but.
So now there's Rocket.
Right. So.
And VMware announced at VMworld that they have they're treating Docker images as first citizens, or whatever they called it, native citizens, that you can do all kinds of crazy tricks, not all of which you may not want to do with Docker at the VMware layer and stuff.
Really? So run in parallel with the hypervisor.
It's in combination with their Photon OS, which is their embracement and extending of the standard, Docker format.
All this stuff. So we all been exposed now? Any other questions?
How long have you been running Enlighten?
How long have I been running Enlighten? Since I was exposed to it in '97. What's that?
Is it still made by Rasterman?
Was it? I think he's kind of a lower level back roll sort of thing. But recently, it's had a little more development. I love it. Once I used it, I've loved it ever since. Every operating system that I put it on top. So, everyone's fighting about GNOME versus KDE for years and years and years and years. And then Unity came along, and then Mint and Cinnamon and all whatever it is. I don't even know if they are. I don't care.
Right.
So I've been using Mint. Mate, yes. Enlightenment. Yes. It works. It's maybe it's an old fogey sort of thing, but it works for me, and I like it. That's not what. So Yancy's got his stuff back there, and I guess